Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Right Opinion, the home of a twat with too much free time. And families, my god, do I love families, whoop whoop whoop. Humour aside, the family is an important staple in the many societies that we do indeed live in. As a concept, it has been around for longer than I can remember, and although many of us do have various goals, there are many people who would just like to settle down with a partner who loves them and raise a few kids. It's a completely fair perspective and one that I hope people have the opportunity to fulfill. It's definitely something that I would like to do at one point in my life, though I'm not entirely sure when. However, I think many of us have a very idealized version of how these things would play out, and although it often takes a few attempts to get it right, and a few more for some, and a few more for others, and maybe a few more on top of that, it's still something we like to hold on to, which is where the idea of family vlogging comes into play. Vlogs appeal to the audience under the notion that they can represent a life that we may idolize and feel an affinity with. That's what has made so many of these wealthy vloggers famous from the start. However, it's important that these people can place themselves in the vlogger's position and that the life they envision can be channeled through a relatable individual. There was a time when a majority of audiences on YouTube liked to envision their lives as the sweet, wholesome ones that will one day be blessed with the same glorious tidings that so many of those lovely vloggers have earned themselves. However, at some point in the last few years, I've noticed a shift. I noticed it in my Emma Chamberlain video that, hey, I guess people are feeling kind of cynical now. And I mean, who can blame them? The world is a depressing place, and I guess everyone is just kind of in that mood. And out of that rose a new lineup of stars who were slightly more controversial than the previous ones. There are positives and negatives to this, but at least it gives us something to talk about. Now, this didn't have to be particularly negative in a way, it just meant slightly more loud, obnoxious, and less subtle.
We're gonna make her worst nightmare come true.
This was a case in every genre, and eventually the penny dropped in the family genre too. You know, you don't have to pretend that everything's perfect. How about conflict and storm? People love melodrama. You just need energy, some ideas, a bit of money, and of course a partner and a kid. I mean, hey, they can't be too hard to find, especially if you're as dashing as the man known as Austin McBroom.
I enjoy catching the ball. I enjoy just having a blast with the teammates on the field and off the field.
Oh yeah. Austin McBroom is the husband and father of the Ace family. Now, he is an individual who is obviously known primarily on YouTube. However, at one point it seemed his career was not destined there. As that clip showed, he was a very sporting-oriented individual and was highly rated in the basketball scene. And to be fair, the dude had some moves. He could shoot some hoops. Given his prominence, you could say he was kinda low-key media figure. He had a previously established audience due to his skills, and here's an old screenshot of his 2015 Twitter, long before the launch of his YouTube channel, which had his 3 principles listed in his biography: 1 God, 2 family, 3 hoop. A simple set of beliefs that had guided him to relative success in the basketball scene and a tendency to write inspirational tweets. One of the elements that was very noticeable on his Twitter prior to the creation of his channel was the love of his fiancée, Catherine. They had a fairly standard story behind them. They saw each other a couple times and then decided that actually they had feelings, which led them to initiating this relationship and the subsequent birthing of their daughter Elle. The run-up to their child had a fair bit of coverage on Twitter and a nice bit of hype surrounding it. So I guess at that point they decided that their life was interesting enough to start a YouTube channel.
Hey guys, welcome to our YouTube channel. This is our first Q&A. You guys sent us a bunch of questions that we picked out.
Now, when I looked at their old content and I saw that their first video was a Q&A, I thought they were pulling my leg. That's some ballsy confidence in your character to open your channel with a Q&A video. Now, from looking at an old Social Blade screenshot, it's possible that they had some other videos up, but deleted them before launch. So I guess they just used the already existent clout that they had surrounding Austin's basketball career and his relationship to launch the channel. They originally were called the incredible name of Austin and Catherine Vlogs, before changing it to the Ace family, Ace representing the initials of each family member's name: Austin, Catherine, and Elle. They do have another child now, Alea, but I guess Acia family didn't quite have the same ring to it. They started off on a fair wave of momentum and have since built on that, accumulating over 17 million subscribers in the space of 3.5 years. So what's the big deal? Family vlogs are here to stay. Well, although vloggers have always taken on their fair share of drama, there seems to be something more about the Ace family, and even more specifically, the man of the house, Austin McBroom, in that he may not be practicing what he preaches and treating those around him with the respect that may be expected. After all, this family is a family who's very grateful.
Living life to the fullest. Like, we're keeping God first, being good people, and just trying our best to inspire others.
Yeah.
Literally.
We're doing our best as far as using our platform in order to do greater things and inspire people. And that's really how we feel every single day. And like, we just get so excited to do things for people, and if you can't already tell, like, that's just in our nature, and that's what we love to do.
A family grateful for many things, but sometimes more than words is necessary to convince people that you believe it. And that is what has been in question over the last couple years, ultimately climaxing in a situation very recently involving much more serious claims, although I have a lot to say about the validity of those. This is not going to be just about Austin. In fact, Catherine is probably going to be receiving a fair bit of scrutiny as well, so don't worry, everyone's going to receive their fair share of discourse. Let's have a discussion to see if the Ace family are really as ace as they proclaim to be, or if behind the candelabra, they're not quite the role models that many see them as. Well, fellas, I'm ready to get up and do my thing. I want to get into it, man, you know? And yes, that was a James Brown reference because, well, I'm a sex machine. Let's go. I want to start off this part with a quick disclaimer. If there's one red flag that will immediately make me question a creator's desire to produce realistic, organic content, it's the notion of pranks. Now, of course, not just any pranks. I'm sure there are some great pranks out there, but you know, that brand of prank that I'm talking about, Roman Atwood, FouseyTube, Joey Salads, Prank Invasion, all that jazz. The reason that I make this statement is because for many of you YouTube veterans, you will know that these pranks were all blatantly fake. The reason for making these pranks fake was because there was never a standard presented by an audience that we'd expect them to make the content genuine. People valued the stunt over the sentiment behind it. On top of this, the fakeness ensured the safety of the individual involved, particularly when they partook in inflammatory stunts which may cause emotional harm to another individual. Now, honestly, the Ace family were probably far from the worst in this area, and the topics that they faked probably didn't have many social repercussions. But when I found out that a lot of their most viewed videos were pranks, and seeing it as how they kicked off their channel, I started to become a bit concerned. I don't have much confidence in these channels because honestly, I believe that any channel prepared to sell an audience pranks won't shy away from selling the audience anything else. However, it is a case of positive proof, and I am a judgmental person in this instance. But my first impressions of the family were not optimistic to say the least. One of my concerns with channels that fake these things is that they don't really have much concern for their actual relationship with their audience and only care about how the audience sees them, which allows them to partake in exploitive behaviors that the audience overlooks. This is one of the running criticisms when I was accumulating a list of topics that were on the chopping board today, that they pretend to care and actually just exploit the relationship whenever they can, which is a pretty cynical perspective. But once again, to fulfill such a claim, we need proof. Let's talk about the incidents that have drawn this criticism, starting with their charity work. To many audiences, charity work seems like an unmitigated positive. Those who engage in charitable behavior are often praised, and rightly so. However, for the very cynical people, they may see charity as a phony way for a creator to try and gain reputation points, which may lead to more negative exploitation in the future. Now, generally, I don't like to side with the latter perspective, because these sorts of things, even if they're stunts, can bring a lot of positive attention to good causes. But I also have to note as a premise that doing charity work does not make you an inherently good or trustworthy person, which is where we look at the Ace family's charity work.
And lastly, to spice it up a little bit, the person I pick for the one-on-one competition, after he's done taking an L, we're gonna play 5-on-5. He will pick his 4 other guys and I will pick my 4 other guys. And the winner of that game will receive a $100,000 check to donate to charity. Each player on that team will get a portion of the money to donate to their charity of choice. And guys, that's the best part about this event, is to be able to give back. To us, there's nothing better in the world than to give back.
The Ace family love to give back, and so when they announced that they were hosting a charity basketball event in June 2018, obviously in the spirit of Austin's game of choice, people were excited. As heard, the winner of the game would receive $100,000 to donate to charity, a very noble cause indeed. The event came around, it was a huge success, it seemed that people had a great time, and they even donated that $75,000? Alrighty then. This caught fairly immediate criticism, as it was was not the amount they had originally pledged to donate. Many theorized that given the sales, they should have made over $500,000 from the event, but others argued that given the costs, it is possible that $75,000 was actually a reasonable amount to donate. And besides, $75,000 was better than nothing. Any sort of discussion around how much they made is very grey, and so it's hard to tally up cost-profit margins. However, if I was in their shoes, given the money involved, if the donation fell short, I probably would have just filled in the remaining money myself, or at least tried to explain to my audience the situation. The closest they get to doing that is this clip from what I understand.
They took $11 from each ticket for ambulance just to be there on spot.
But even then, the explanation is rather insufficient, as pointed out by epic YouTuber Pyrocynical.
So let's take $11 off each ticket, but that's still a fraction of the possible profit he made compared to the money he gave away. Also, he might have even hired the stadium for a discounted price, or even for free, because this was a charity event.
But I like money.
And regardless, you want to honor your commitment to charity. They were selling merch at like $65 a piece at the event, and I feel they could have afforded it. I'm sure the money went to the right cause. I just sincerely hope they did donate every last cent, because the next few events may make you doubt that they did. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, well, shame on me, but still significant amount of shame on you too. And once again, the source of the controversy came from a basketball event involving $100,000. I mean, it's like they're baiting their audience at this point. So in this video, Austin announces he's doing another giveaway, this time actually $100,000, and he'll be giving it to anyone who can shoot 10 consecutive hoops in a basketball competition.
It sounds pretty easy to me. If you think you can do it, hit us up. If you think your favorite YouTuber or celebrity can do it, make sure you tag them. I also put the video on my Instagram, so make sure you tag them in the comments. Guys, it's a free 100K. You don't have to pay to enter, although we suggest, it's up to you, but we suggest whoever wins donates a portion to charity. You all know, Catherine, I love giving back.
Now, given the rather general language, him talking about YouTubers, but also talking about anyone who thinks they're good enough, in both his video and his announcement tweet, you'd expect this competition to be open to anyone, right? Wrong. Austin just listed 20 already fairly wealthy individuals who definitely weren't just randomly selected. It kind of sucked, and to add insult to injury, during the competition, he invites one of his other basketball playing friends down who wasn't even on the original list to play, and that guy wins it. 100K, which once again, doesn't mean much to anyone. People were fairly annoyed because they did feel misled. Not because he actively stated that he was going to be inviting his fans, but because he has shown in the past that he is completely capable of clarifying when he only wants influencers, such as the last basketball game.
What that means is I am going to challenge anyone with a support system, whether that be a YouTuber, whether that be a celebrity, whether that be an artist, whether that be a baby.
So basically you want to play against someone who has a fan base. That can bring a fan base.
Yes.
Someone that has support.
Yes.
When he said the competition was open to people had the impression that he would be inviting anyone, thus imposing these false expectations. The only comment that could remotely be interpreted in the direction of saying it's more influence-focused is this one.
So this is a new year. Everyone wants the new year to be better than the last year. So our first video in the new year was a video dedicated to all of our ACE family members. So now we want to do something fun and entertaining for the social media world.
After watching this around 5 times, I came to the conclusion that he was implying this would be focused away from the fans. But it was a vaguely delivered statement, and in the context of the whole video, you'd completely receive a different impression. Again, it's not a huge deal, it's just strange why he didn't seek to make it clearer. Maybe because he thought it wouldn't be high enough stakes if everyone already knew that a rich person was winning 100,000. Maybe he's just bad at explaining things without Catherine there. Nonetheless, it's not a huge deal. He can quickly clear it up, right?
No.
I didn't expect to find any of Austin's response, but I did. And now I understand why he doesn't normally respond. Because, wow, that's a bad response. It's hard to work out exactly what he's saying here or the logic, but he basically seems insulted that people have a problem when he's done so much. And that if you're a true Ace family member, you must appreciate everything else the mighty Austin McBroom does, and take no issue with his decisions. His other response was at the end of the charity video to the criticism that everyone was rich so they didn't need money.
Damn, it feels so good to because a lot of people kept saying, yo, give it to someone who needs it. Like, they kept saying everyone in the event, makes a lot of money, so they don't need it. Guys, you don't know what people's situations are, so you don't know how much someone makes at all, right? But for someone who actually really needed it. I picked someone out of the stands that wasn't in the contest just because we really wanted to give it away, and I felt like he had a good shot. Next thing you know, he wins the game. That's dope. That's such a cool story.
Fair enough, I guess. Well, once again, the problem arose with the fact that this comment seemed purposely dishonest, as the winner, Austin Mills, is the son of Jade Mills, a luxury real estate agent who has over $5 billion in sales. Now, I cannot comment on a son's relationship with his ostensibly rich mother, but it definitely made McBroom's comments look a bit ridiculous. It's the Ace family's channel, but the behavior surrounding the stunt seemed insulting to the audience's intelligence, arrogant, and all around a bit mean-spirited, and for someone who's so humble and intent on giving back, you'd think he wouldn't react as if he was a god who felt people weren't praying enough to him. Why would it be so hard to apologize for a misunderstanding that seemed honestly purposely vague? I don't know. Let's talk about it more. One of the things that I've noticed is that when being faced down with serious criticism, the Ace family doesn't really like talking about it, and when they do, it's typically not with the most finesse. They have two options. They can respond, which we partly observed already, or they can ignore and elicit sympathy through what may appear to be unrelated methods, but honestly, I'm not sure if they're as coincidental as one might assume. Let's begin with the former, how they act when they respond. I've already criticized them for their response to people's annoyance about the basketball game, which although not the biggest deal, did demonstrate a lack of competence. But there is another great situation which once again illuminates this, and probably a few more points as well.
We've been getting a lot of comments lately asking us what happened with the Ace family in this truck. So we just wanted to address it and let you guys hear firsthand from our mouths what really happened.
This is one involving an individual by the name of Urban Trademark 7. He's a designer. He makes some pretty slick designs, and he felt that McBroom had ripped him off.
I guess, you know, he came across the merchandise again and he bought a couple items. And he had asked Bobby, like, yeah, do you know the dude that makes these? And Bobby, I guess, told him, like, yeah, you know, I know him, but all his information is on the label. So if you want to reach out to him, you know, that's his Instagram and all his contacts is on there. So he reached out from the text messages that I post, and I was like, for sure, let's link up and try to put something together then.
To explain in a bit more depth, it appears that Austin had seen him purchase some of Urban's designs while out and about in local stores and had asked after him. Apparently, he really liked the designs and had fans who he felt would appreciate some merchandise made in the style of that content.
So then from there, I was like, all right, well, what I could do is I can make a couple exclusively for you, and then we could sell them, and then, you know, when I link back up, I'll make them. When I link back up, we could negotiate like the price.
So they decide to convene and discuss the prospects of working on some collaborative content. So it appears that they were going to work on some designing together before finalizing the financial side of it. There's also something about a coloring book that I think Urban wanted McBroom to promote as well, one that he gifted to McBroom's daughter, although McBroom didn't want to take a picture with him, which he found suspicious due to disassociation in a way.
So yeah, so I'm like, oh, I'm gonna intentionally I was just like, I'm gonna give a book to his daughter because I made the book for my daughter. That's what inspired me, and I'm like, he has a little one, so I want to give her a coloring book. So on my way out, when we got to the car, I give him the coloring book, and I'm like, hey, you know, this is for your daughter. You know, just give it to her if you can. You know, take a picture. I'm, you know, just trying to promote the book for kids. He was like, dope. That's for sure. I got you. And I was like, do you mind if I get a picture with you with the book? And he instantly was like, froze up for a second. Was like, nah, let's just wait, man. I only take professional pictures. And I was like, all right, for sure.
The conversation continued over the following days, with Urban presenting the designs to McBroom, who said he'd been busy. What was he busy with? Well, allegedly copying Urban's own designs and then selling them himself. Even one regarding an ice cream truck that the Ace family allegedly nabbed for one of their subscriber specials just under a year later.
And then a couple days later, I seen on YouTube, he had on the bands, some bands that looked like my bands for him and his daughter.
They was mad thick.
They was mad thick. They wasn't, I just know my work. And I was like, Lika, come here, look at this. And she like, nah. And then, so then I basically, that's what you see from the text. I hit him up. I'm like, bro, what's up with this? And those messages, what we'll put here is basically what transpired people do that, man. People get really influenced and rip you off so fast that I'm not the only one that's been done to, I'm pretty sure. But so I kind of like, I took it with a grain of salt. Another thing was dope is I'm working on a truck that I'm about to drop that we can like basically do pop-ups where every band that I make exclusively for you, we pop up, we could sell them, and then, you know, this is love. So I tell them the whole get down about the truck and how I used to have a store, and now I feel like mobile is the new wave. And like, you know, and he's like, oh man, that shit sounds genius. I felt some type of way. And that's when I was like, oh nah, I gotta expose this dude because, you know, and then when it's crazy because when I posted about the truck, people was hitting me up, mad DMs like, you're not the only one he ripped off.
They had a subsequent confrontation in Instagram DMs, and Urban felt provoked eventually into making a video with the publication of this ice cream truck incident. It's hard to exactly measure the verifiability of these claims. It appears that a lot of what was said was true about the circumstances surrounding it. The difficulties come into the fact that it's difficult to exactly argue how much was plagiarized in a way, and how much McBroom just decided to do in his own style. But regardless, it's a shame they couldn't communicate these differences more effectively, and the whole ice cream truck scenario is a bit suspicious. Though, because of the vagueness in the language in the DMs that I've seen, it's difficult to once again say exactly what's gone on. No one really admits to much. However, as said, this was about response, and once again, Austin demonstrated his exceptional class.
Saw some headbands, hit him up, wanted to collab. He didn't want to collab with me because he tried to say that the headbands were expensive. He was bullshitting. He was trying to get over on me, so I said, you know what, bruh? You know what? I'm going to have my grandma make me my own headbands because everybody sell headbands in the stores. Everybody, all the stores sell headbands. You ain't the first headband maker. Who the fuck you think you are? You the inventor of headbands? You idiot. So I made my own headbands. He got mad because I posted it and I had a little following. He got mad. I was wearing my headbands with L. He was like, this dude's he tried to take my idea. He took the idea where you put the band around your head and you cross it and you tie it and you put it in your head. He stole that from me. Austin from the Ace family stole my art, and I don't like him. Don't like him, right? So then, a year later, just like Fred, the Ace family's blowing up. I'm itching for that clout pill. I need that clout. Ace family blowing up. They got over 10 million subs. I'm trying to get some attention. He comes out after we have made an ice cream truck from SD Wraps. They literally customized this random as fuck. They came up with it with their own brain. They made the ice cream truck literally in a day, right? We release it. He tries to come out and say, we took his idea from getting an ice cream truck. You know how many ice cream trucks are out there?
That's the real positivity we love to see. And I'm making a slight observation here, but he's a bit of a dick. Once again, I can't tell you if this is true because I haven't seen any real counter evidence. I'm open to alternative stories as the DMs were pretty vague, but he's just so angry and petulant about it that you kind of want to hate him. And this is one of the problems with the Ace family, and most notably Austin, lack of empathy. It was the same problem that made his response to the basketball competition feel disconnected from what people were trying to say. Now, it's clear this isn't a formal response, so I can't judge it too seriously. But he just seems so angry at this guy because he sees anyone who criticizes like that as a clout chaser, even though he was only provoked by one specific incident later, which clearly bothered him. It was clear Urban was upset at the time, and the DMs, even if they were vague, showed a genuine pain. And Austin taps into that during that conversation, saying in the messages that Urban's coming at him like a woman, a very classy man. The contempt implies that he just can't acknowledge that he's ever made any missteps or why anyone would ever be upset at him. And I think that rubs people the wrong way. It rubbed me the wrong way. Disclaimer, the problem of a lack of empathy is going to be a running theme in this video. When you see that side of Austin, it does bring into contention the notion of motives for the way that he interacts with his audience. He always speaks about him wanting to give back. But when people might come at him from an angle that implies they feel dissatisfied with his behavior, he just doesn't seem to clock it. Selfless philanthropy, in the way that the Ace family promote, is based on empathy for others, and it adds a shade of skepticism when they seem to demonstrate a lack lack of it in other areas. It doesn't necessarily prove an inability, but when you frame yourself in a way that anyone criticizing you is a bad faith actor and true Ace family members know how much they really do, it just gives me Greg Paul vibes. So whereas Greg Paul was overly defensive of destructive behavior from his children, McBroom seems to have a basic ego problem. I don't want to doubt that the Ace family clearly do a fair bit for their audience. It's clear given their interaction, and I respect that, but it's hard to deny that they have fallen short at points, and when you fall short again and again and again, the criticism will begin to accumulate. And as said, Austin isn't one for official statements, unless they're completely unrelated to the actual criticism. What do I mean? Well, in spite of the fact that the Ace family seldom demonstrates sympathy for their critics, they're more than ready to expect it themselves, and often at opportune times. So I wanted to focus on this for the next part. I've already talked about a couple instances where they seem to undermine standards that many would consider standard for that of a creator their size. But it does not end there. As a successful creator, it's likely that you may want to engage your audience through other mediums. This is something that the Ace family decided to pursue with the launch of their Ace Family app. Now, looking at it in its current state, reviews are overwhelmingly positive, so hopefully any problems there have been resolved. However, at the time, there were many people who had felt ripped off due to the lack of content. There were a couple of reasons for this, at least as I understand, and therefore the Ace family felt it was a good time to take a break.
This is actually happening. We will be taking a break from YouTube.
Not telling you guys how long just yet, but we are taking a break. During our break, which is why we said wasn't really going to be a break, we'll be focusing on our app along with our merch. For all the people who have the Ace Family membership, we cannot thank you guys enough for all the love and support that you continue to show us. Just know we have a lot coming. We're not gonna say too much. We just wanna upload exclusive content and show you guys.
As many people interpreted this, it meant that they were going to be making content for the Ace Family app and therefore creating a paywall between them and some of their less privileged viewers. As said, there were complaints that they weren't providing enough content on the app to justify the additional payment. So basically, it felt like they were kind of failing on both fronts. Generally, unless you're really strapped for cash, it's good to make exclusive content as a bonus rather than taking it away from your public content. However, a break is a break, and in their defense, it's hard to say whether their comments were in reference to working on plans of their app or just the content itself. I feel that this situation was likely a boiling over of other situation, but it's clear that the Ace family at this point, after a run of controversies, probably had enough. This was all occurring in January of 2019, one of their most controversial months, with reference to the 100K basketball competition and another incident involving the purchasing of a phallic lollipop for a child, which we'll get to later. Now, many people were focusing on the app at this point, but when they announced a break, I found it coincided very conveniently with the announcement of what is now known as the Ace Family documentary, Welcome to Our Life. Now, to defend them on this front, this was probably a conceptual idea before the drama, but given their selected break that ends with their return, it's very easy to think where their focus in the ensuing month may have been. I don't know how much they worked on their merch or their app, but I think they had a bit of focus on this too. I like documentaries on principle. Hell, there's even a documentary out there on me. And it won't be the last time that I try and make that sort of thing. From a filmmaking perspective, they can be really great. But I think one of my biggest problems with documentaries, even those like the ones from Shane Dawson, is that they can easily control the narrative and are often trying to make a statement on the actual character of an individual, rather than any greater message. And therefore, it can be utilized, particularly by larger YouTubers, for propaganda reasons. It's very easy for an individual to own a narrative when they own the camera, even when they say it's behind the scenes. Behind the scenes documentaries were often gritty, and characters were sometimes unlikable because they had a unique value in their performance that no one else could substitute, and therefore their whole behavior came with them. The modern-day YouTube documentary can be very easily hijacked by an individual to elicit sympathy from their audience, and that's the impression I received when I heard about the Ace Family documentary. How did they follow through on it?
And what we do is so difficult. I feel like people don't understand that there's really nothing private in our lives anymore.
I decided to take on the burden of watching these episodes of it in case they said anything of interest, and the first episode was harmless enough. They talk about moving around and privacy issues, and although I wouldn't exactly consider $1,500 a month apartment a struggle, it was alright. I understand that as public figures, they probably have a stressful life. My feelings were slightly mellowed by the end of the first episode, however, they went straight into it with the second.
whenever we do something good, whenever we give back or we trying to help people, like no one ever really talks about that. But as soon as like something comes up to where the Ace family is looked at in a bad light, or there's some like drama stirred up or some controversy stirred up about us, and it's not necessarily true, like people hop on the bandwagon so quick, and that shit will make the news rather than all the good things that we've done.
I guess this is what many would consider an indirect response. It's completely coated with multiple other narratives and is what many YouTubers will do if they don't feel like they can give a direct response to the criticism. They'll basically just create some straw man and say, wow, the haters do suck. It reminds me of that Jake Paul rap. You know the one. It sucks that media is often oriented towards the negative, but that's only because the negative actions aren't what you'd expect from an individual. It's out of the ordinary, and therefore people are more interested when a person indulges in it. That's not saying that you're a bad person, and mob mentality can sometimes lead to the wrong impression. We're all aware of that now. But to act as if all the backlash that you receive is representative to, for example, people being upset over tweets made 7 or 8 years ago is extremely deceptive. Does it mean that those people don't exist? Not at all. But they're certainly not representing the majority of what people are likely bothered by. Basically, this whole scene felt like Austin wanted to create something vague enough to invalidate and engrave it in the docuseries that throws in other, maybe very legitimate struggles in an attempt to elicit sympathy from an audience that probably hasn't thought about the distinction between legitimate criticism and illegitimate criticism.
People go out of their way to make something seem so different of what it is.
Like, I literally just posted a snap of Alea, like, me playing with her laying on her stomach, having tummy time, and now I'm getting bashed for it.
What do you mean? What are people saying something?
Like, yeah, they're saying I'm such a bad dad because I laid my newborn on her stomach, when it's literally just tummy time. Like, everyone knows about tummy time.
You're kidding.
I laid her on her stomach to give her tummy time. I'm sitting there, like, making a cute snap with her, and now people are bashing me for it. Like, this is why Catherine and I hesitate to film our kids.
He's representing the criticism that he receives by talking about this situation that I don't think anyone with a brain is going to be thinking about. Then there's the implication spread to the point that this is the sort of stuff being spoken about in the serious videos on him. He shows a reel of those videos, which it really isn't. I get that people being overly critical of mob mentality, they are all things that grind many of our gears, but to throw videos and to create this umbrella is dishonest, and playing the sad music and implying sympathy with a title like The Truth About the Ace Family is about as heavy-handed as they come.
Like I have said before, we're human, and we've made some mistakes. I mean, like, we're not perfect.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that we're bad people, you know? And something coming out and circulating again is literally purely just to make us look bad.
Here you are in a scene where they almost come to terms with their imperfections, but then they flip it onto their head and say anyone releasing this stuff is just trying to make us look bad, which, given the criticism that I've discussed already, is a fundamentally redundant statement, given that some of these criticisms came from your own fans. It's such an arrogant attitude that they try to masquerade in the "oh, woe is the struggle of the Ace family" narrative. Listen, there are problems that come with fame. I can get why unnecessary attention and criticism can bother you, but to speak generally and then provide an extreme circumstance to try and explain why you're actually suffering is like Al Capone asking why so many people were out to get him when all he did was evade taxes. Also, do you know how to say the word frustrated? Because I'm feeling pretty frustrated right now.
Frustrate us. It's frustrating, and that's the frustrating thing.
Next part. There's good criticism and bad criticism. If you can't separate it, I don't really have much respect for throwing an umbrella over it and arguing that they were the true victims. A lot of the criticisms that they received could have been resolved fairly easily. Only donating $75,000 charity? Donate an extra $25. Holding a basketball shootout where fans feel misled? Do another one involving your fans, or at least do something involving your fans as compensation. People feel like you've screwed them over? Don't be a dick and go out and just talk a bunch of crap. It's not rocket science, and I get you don't want to yield on every occasion, but there's a point where principle pushes into stubbornness and you just end up looking unreasonable. And hell, when you actually make a mistake and you receive criticism that you can't respond to, apologize, or at least admit you got something wrong. The phallic lollipop is a prime example of something that could have just been solved with a tweet saying, "It was inappropriate, my bad," but it wasn't. The Ace family are more than happy to admit they've made mistakes, but they'll never tell you which specific ones because they don't want to actually admit to anything. I don't think it's that demanding, and that's one of the things that I think just shows to me that McBroom has a significant ego problem, that they just don't want to ever say they've done anything specific wrong, and if you make any specific criticisms, they will blow it up to a greater character implication and say, "How dare you, we're not bad people." Not everyone's saying you're bad people. Some of these critics are even your fans. It's very easy to see their whole documentary series as a beg for sympathy towards conflicted fans who may be on the fence about their behavior, and I personally find it rather manipulative. The documentary was probably the most elaborate way to try and retain fans. It was probably done in the light of the success these Shane Dawson videos had yielded too, so it was a win-win. However, it's not the first time that people have accused them of baiting for sympathy. No, there was an even more notorious incident in the year prior, not too long after they had received a bit of stick for the $75K basketball situation. When something happens to you, it's natural for you to receive people's sympathies, which is why sometimes people are a bit suspicious about the motives of those who have terrible stuff happen to them not too long after they've received some criticism. This was the case for the Ace family, who had their house robbed in July of 2018, amongst a fairly decent wave of criticism. On one hand, this was met with a lot of sympathy, and people understood why the Ace family were distraught over this. However, very quickly, suspicion began to boil up around the circumstances surrounding this incident. Did the Ace family arrange or stage their own break-in? However, ladies and gentlemen, this is a crime scene, and we need someone on the case. So I've assigned Detective Jonathan Aubrey to deal with this matter and to see if we can work out what can be said about the situation. I suggest we pass it over to him to present it and his subsequent findings.
Parents often play a critical part in forming their child's first relationships, acting as a role model and exemplifying the types of behaviors they wish to see exhibited by their own one day. As such, children will always turn out best when their parents are there to nurture, love, and support them throughout their personal experiences. Which is why we need more parents shoving cameras down their kids' throats for the sole purpose of internet clout. That was a joke. We don't need that at all, actually. But regardless, family vlogs have always been an integral aspect of YouTube as we know it. From the Shaytards all the way down to the Inghams, families will continue to play a significant role in the online zeitgeist. And although it isn't necessarily for me, I understand the appeal. People, children especially, crave the types of connections that can be easily accessed through internet personalities. When you watch Cole and Sav, for example, you aren't just another audience member, you're a part of their lives, adding to the immense power these figures often wield. Kids and families trust that these types of creators are being open and honest with them, giving them an elevated responsibility, which is why many believe these channels deserve to be held accountable for their actions, hence why the Ace family has been the subject of such intense scrutiny.
Ace family, so we just got home. We've been at Disney all day, and someone broke into our house.
On August 16th, 2018, the Ace family made waves in the community by uploading their famed "Someone Broke Into Our House" vlog, where the title pretty much tells you all you need to know.
We literally walk in the house is pitch black. We're tired as hell because we've been at Disney for the past 6 hours, and I'm holding Elle in my arms. Catherine's coming in behind me. Like I said, the house is pitch black. I put the keys down the counter, and I hear some like glass dropping. And I look over and it's a back door shattered. So I told Catherine, the girls, get the fuck out of there. We left, had to run to the neighbors, talk to the neighbors, and now, like I said, the cops are finally here. And hopefully they didn't take too much shit.
Their vlog documents the aftermath of a supposed home invasion that took place while the three were spending some quality time together at Disneyland. The half-hour-long video depicts police cars, smashed belongings, ransacked closets, and of course Austin and Catherine trying their absolute best to save face in the wake of a crisis.
Oh, they took all my purses.
They took what?
They took all my purses.
Motherfuckers.
I don't give a shit about purses, so.
Bebe, they took your stuff. You okay?
It's okay. We don't need none of that. We don't care about that. All we care about is you, mama.
They both make a clear effort to drive home the fact that, oh, things can be replaced, but people can't. Which is nice, you know? I mean, I don't think you'll find many who disagree with that sentiment. But to me, they just seem a little too calm and collected to have just found out their $10 million home was burglarized. Which was just the beginning of the suspicions more and more people would start to air.
Our merch box?
They went inside the merch box, bro. What were they looking for?
We legit have no valuables. Literally, the only thing valuable is my daughter, and that's about it.
They try to take the YouTube playbook.
It's true that robberies can happen to anyone, anywhere, at any given time. But to ignore the glaring circumstances surrounding the family at the time of their break-in would be counterproductive. As James was quick to mention earlier, people do crazy things for sympathy, especially those who make their living by earning clicks online. Lord knows Austin and Catherine are no strangers to clickbait. Hell, even if the robbery did happen, they still went out of their way to stage a whole ass thumbnail to get that sweet CTR. It strikes me as a bit odd that just a few weeks prior to this incident, the whole basketball controversy went down in which people accused the family of stealing money from a charity event. So would it be within reason for someone in their position to stage a fake tragedy for the simple aim of gaining pity? Yes, but does that mean without a shadow of a doubt that the robbery was faked? No, not necessarily, which is why we need to look at the details of the proceeding before we do anything else. At first, people were already suspicious of the way the police behaved on camera, some viewers even going so far as to insist that they weren't even a part of the LAPD.
Let's turn the lights on. They didn't take your wallet?
Mostly everything that's ransacked was upstairs.
What?
Oh, that's you recording? We're gonna be on YouTube?
Yeah.
I'll come up on
My guy right here, he's helping us out. He's part of the Ace family.
A theory that was later reinforced when a fan dug up evidence of a place called Top Cop Shop in LA renting out fake police and squad cars on August 16th, the same night the robbery reportedly took place. Catherine was quick to dismiss the smear campaign against her family on Twitter, though you can't really blame people for asking the question, can you? Renting reenactors is not particularly uncommon in reality TV, leading many to wonder if they had just recreated the incident in an attempt to make their situation appear more dramatic for YouTube. Perhaps the family had suffered an actual home invasion a day prior and, being unsatisfied with the initial footage, rented out fake cops to hype it up for the cameras. After all, it couldn't have been completely fabricated. The real police report was posted by Keemstar on Twitter. Austin later appeared in an Instagram live following the incident, showing unedited footage of someone checking for fingerprints the next morning, although it's pretty standard protocol to check for those kinds of things immediately after the incident takes place as to not disrupt the crime scene. So, you know, that's a little sus. He also announced that the family would be moving to a new house since they no longer felt safe in their current home, leading some to assume that they simply trashed the house and left it, though that's a bit of a stretch considering it took almost an entire year for the move to officially happen. But even then, it's not completely off the table, and we never saw any footage of the actual robbery. A $10 million house is sure to come with cameras, an alarm system at the very least, but despite their abundant coverage of the situation, they never so much as mentioned any of that. It just comes off so orchestrated to me. I don't know.
Here we are being so honest with you guys. Like, you guys say the craziest rumors about us, like the craziest things. Someone is making a fake receipt of like us paying for cop actors. Like, these were real cops that were in our home. Like, that's against the law to do that, to fake a receipt, to fake an invoice. That's against the law.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's slander. We have to leave our house. Like, we can't be here anymore. As much as I'd love to continue living in my home, we have to leave because it's not safe.
Looking at the evidence, I believe something must have happened to them. But even that still leaves room for more unanswered questions. Things like, why didn't these robbers take the diamond play button? And why was Austin filming the entire time as if to prove he wasn't hiding anything? Someone in their position probably wouldn't have behaved as orderly, given the tremendous shock and grief that must come along with getting your mansion ransacked while you're conveniently out at Disneyland. The Ace family is in such a position to where they can literally lie about anything to their audience, and they're not really going to be pressed for the real truth. The dishonesty of this family runs deep, and whether this was staged or not, people have every reason to question the parts of their life they publicize. The fact that this all came only 2 weeks after some of Austin's old problematic tweets resurfaced, coupled with their apparent inability to simply own up to their own mistakes, is enough to make anyone suspicious. But would this family really go through all the trouble of hiring fake cops to drum up a sensationalist story for the sole purpose of seeking reconciliation among their fan base? That's something I'll let you decide for yourself.
That was some intense detective work, but I'm proud to have YouTube's finest on the case, which I'm aware is the equivalent of kindergarten cop, but I think John would make an excellent Arnold Schwarzenegger, if Arnold Schwarzenegger was a tiny twink, of course. But we love him all the same. I think probably the most frustrating part of the whole ordeal was once again their reaction to the idea that people may be doubting this. It's the same routine that we've seen time and time again, and you think they'd just be a bit more understanding of what's come their way, but they just don't have a clue how to fully get people to understand their perspective. Austin and Catherine have never been afraid to present an image of themselves to the audience, but they're also masters in orchestrating the representation of their lives. So house intrusions, whether legitimate or not, is obviously going to be seen by many as part of the melodrama, and many others as a distraction to how they actually act behind the scenes. However, even if they fake their intention for the good deeds, they're good deeds. If they provide the right message for aspiring creators and parents, then that can't be a bad thing, right? But are they really truly virtuous? Are they really who we should be looking up to? I'm just not entirely sure they are. Now, as mentioned at the start, the move away from wholesome role models towards characters that inspire more cynicism is something that is impossible to avoid. The Ace family is no real exception to that rule. And I understand that, but I would also posit that in spite of this, family channels should be held to a marginally higher standard than those of Jake Paul, because although they are more than worthy of their criticism, like a lot of it, Jake Paul is at least the representation of a dumb, privileged frat boy who just moved in with his friends. His antics represent a fleeting part of young adulthood that will eventually capitulate itself. He has the inspirational garbage, but it's so unbelievably inept that no one really buys it. With the Ace family, what they're doing is presenting this family life, which, as mentioned, a cultural staple to many, a necessary stage of growth and a part of everyone's life, whether positive or negative. On the one hand, I would hope that the Ace family realizes their behavior has an effect on probably the workings of many other families. On the other hand, it makes what we're about to talk about worse. I think this is what particularly vexed people in the next couple of situations that we're going to be discussing. Let's talk about the lollipop. This situation once again occurred in January of 2019, as mentioned. Austin was taking a child out shopping. They go into what I assume is a novelty shop or a more adult-oriented shop, and then, shock horror, on his Snapchat story this is posted. He finds himself in some hijinks.
What'd you say? What'd you say? What are you trying to get to? You love what? Oh God. You don't need that.
Oh no, I can't believe she wanted the penis-shaped lollipop. What madness. How on earth did that happen?
Are you really making me buy this lollipop right now? You really want it? Yeah. Oh God.
It's gonna be 7.
Please, bro, put that in a bag right now. Keep that in the bag forever. Do not show that to anybody, okay? Okay. That's your little secret. Guys, I'm in so much trouble. But she said she was gonna steal it if I didn't buy it, so better me buy it.
Oh, damn it, Austin. He had to buy it for her, or else she was gonna steal it. Damn, McBroom really got put in a tough situation here. I'm sure that everyone bought that very sincere explanation. They didn't. And there was immediate criticism for Austin because he bought a penis-shaped lollipop for a child and then gave it to them. It was extremely inappropriate and not the sort of thing that you would hope a family YouTuber to be doing. It's hard for me to be particularly angry. I was much angrier when Jake Paul just shouted at babies, so maybe I'm just desensitized to penis. But I do agree with the criticism. No doubt Austin clearly wanted a funny story but knew he'd get stuck, so tried to pin the responsibility on the child. I think it illuminates one of the biggest problems with children in family vlogs. In their little documentary series, they say this.
Yeah. Like if Elle didn't like being in front of the camera, if she was like...
Oh, we would not
like
be
running,
the Ace family.
Like if she was running away and she wasn't like, you know, interacting, we would not be the Ace family.
No, we wouldn't. 100%. It would never be the same effect.
Yeah.
And I just find it as a comment rather redundant. Children that young can't exactly say whether they want to be on camera, even if they appear to enjoy it. Austin and Catherine constantly talk about how their life has changed due to the attention in the series, but hardly take a look at how it's going to affect a child at one of their most vulnerable times in their life. And when you're someone like Austin who clearly finds some value in the drama, not being criticized for it could have genuine ramifications on your children. It's not like I'm against having children in family vlogs, but I don't think they should be a part of the drama that Austin tends to involve himself in. I don't think it happens on a rather excessive basis, but I think it's something worth noting, especially when looking at these dramas. This isn't exclusive, but it's a cumulative criticism they shouldn't ignore. Hell, one of their newest videos was originally titled as the children ranking seductive Halloween costumes. And you can see why it bothers people. Infants aren't props, and their innocence and well-being should be prioritized over the acquisition of views. The fact that they never really talk about these things just makes them poor role models, really, and I'll explain why now. Take this recent issue where Austin acquired a jet ski and decided to ride it around his mansion's pool. According to many in the area, the amount of water discharged caused mudslides that created additional problems in the neighborhood, including negatively affecting property and a grape plantation. A complaint had been made to the city, but the antics continued. Now, as far as I can see, there's not really much to imply this isn't the Ace family. It adds up. So eventually this was resolved in private, and Catherine did actually talk about it in their video and removed the jet ski from the accommodation, in which she made this statement.
Austin wanted to get into this jet ski, and there was nothing that I could do about it because, Austin is Austin. At the end of the day, sometimes I kind of have to be a team player and accept some of the things that he's gonna do. To be honest with you guys, Austin has been doing crazy things for the past couple of years. You guys know that. You guys should see the things that didn't make it onto our channel because of me. So I'm like content patrol. After the first time that he used it, we actually got a complaint we were actually unaware of. The complaint went straight to our builder because the neighbor's actually friends with the builder. And so he's like, hey man, like there's water coming down on my property. Like originally when Austin rode the jet ski, I was under the impression, even Austin was under the impression, like no one thought that the water would like reach anywhere else. Even though yes, water reaches in other places, but because we have an infinity pool, we thought that the water was going down on like the bottom or like the drainage part. Since we have like all this land that goes all the way down, we thought, oh, it's just water. Like, it's not gonna go anywhere. There's not that much water. So he hit our builder up and he was like, hey, like there's some water going here. So our builder actually took it upon himself and built a whole entire retaining wall down below on our property. So he built that wall and he actually didn't even tell us because it was my birthday, we were on vacation. So he said he didn't want to bother us with it. So yeah, when we came back and used the jet ski the third time, we got a complaint, and even though there was a retaining wall there, someone wanted to complain and say something anyways, which I understand, like it's still the matter of the fact, but it's still my property that the water is going down on. But to be honest with you, if that were me, I would be so upset. Like if someone was putting anything on my property, like it doesn't even matter if it's water. And so you don't want anything on your property. If I had a garden or like a garden of grapes or like trees and stuff, like I wouldn't want anything on my property. So I completely understand like if anyone were to be upset, but again, there is that retaining wall that's there. But either way, I want the jet ski out.
It kind of sucks that she didn't actually apologize. Sorry really does seem to be the hardest word for this family, but it could be worse. She does at least empathize with the people making the complaints. Then there's this recorded confrontation with Austin, which honestly feels kind of forced, but at least they took action, though I guess it would have been nice to see more of a personal acknowledgement from Austin, given that it was his antics on the jet ski that caused this trouble.
Hey, where is it?
It's gone. It's sold.
My jet ski is not gone.
It is.
Stop saying that.
Austin.
How the hell did you get out of the pool? That jet ski is so heavy.
How do you think it got in the pool?
Me and like 4 of my friends.
I had 4 guys.
You did not have people carry it out of the pool.
I did.
To where? Where is it?
Commenters stated how they felt Austin came across as rather rude and inconsiderate. As said, I hope it's fake, but it also seems daft that once again he'd purposely miss out on the opportunity to be a bit more mature and take some responsibility. Maybe I'd be a bit annoyed too if I thought my partner had sold one of my items, but equally he was behaving so recklessly on it and there was no use for it either. It's hard to really blame anyone but yourself. For the record, Catherine didn't actually sell it, she just put it in the garage. Although this issue is resolved, you don't really receive the impression that Austin has grown from the situation. And I think the idea of personal growth is important to the issue at hand, especially with a young or sensitive audience. Now, fortunately, Catherine's framing kind of shows Austin in this situation the juvenile individual that he is. But he's often the one at the helm, and he's the one with control over the narrative, which, as we've shown, isn't always the best decision. Austin comes across as a bit immature, and the jet ski situation shows him as a big kid who loves his toys a little too much. He often seems to lack thought about how his actions affect others, and that's not a good thing for a creator his size. I think it'd be good for him to sometimes take a step back and look at the implications beyond his immediate family. With an impressionable audience, you're missing out on that opportunity. The public eye is a cruel mistress. It's true, it kind of sucks we focus on the negative rather than the positive, but by focusing on themselves as victims of the haters, they are doing exactly the same. The Ace family still have millions of loyal subscribers who like and watch every single video they put out. Even at the peak of all the drama, they have completely persisted as creators in the spotlight with overwhelmingly positive like to dislike ratios, which I know doesn't mean everything, but they say enough about the strength of the Ace family members. Does that mean that as public figures they don't have problems? No, not at all. In fact, the public eye can give you a lot of problems, but it doesn't mean those problems are sourced in criticisms that have yielded from public behavior, which to many people is fair enough to criticize. I think the Ace family understand that, to be honest, because they do acknowledge it, but they try to link it back to public criticism in an attempt to deflect it. Deep down, the real problems with the public eye are, as always, how it can affect the personal, private lives of individuals, which has always been a problem for anyone with celebrity status, especially rumors of what's personally going on behind the scenes and how the gossip can spread. This is something the Ace family has been subjected to as well, and once again, that's the problem with family vlogs. I genuinely believe that vlogging your life in the way that the Ace family does put your family at risk. We spoke about Austin's relationship with Catherine, but for the family, it's a huge selling point. On Twitter, they only follow each other and they publicly indulge in a lot of romantic behavior and market it to their audience. However, in spite of this, many have become suspicious that it's a bit of an act, mainly relating to other reported behaviors from family members, mostly Austin. One of the prominent personal narratives is the one regarding Austin McBroom's faithfulness to his wife Catherine. There are a lot of individuals who have claimed that Austin's antics extend to other women, thus yielding to a narrative regarding infidelity that a lot of people believe. There have been a few videos and posts that have accused him of this. One that received a significant amount of coverage was a post by Bellic Grr, who, in posting an Instagram message she sent to Catherine on Twitter, stated that while Austin was in Miami for the weekend, he slept with one of her friends and then made her sign an NDA. The author of this message said they couldn't stand quietly and let this happen, and wanted to let her know as a mother and a woman. She also posted an additional reply saying that she had all the proof and screenshots and would only talk to Catherine. Catherine did see this and she snapped back, saying that if there was evidence she wanted to see it, and if they were at risk of being sued due to an NDA, then she would pay for it out of her own pocket. There were no further public interactions in this exchange. And honestly, it's hard to really prove anything either way. There are a lot of claims about Austin's infidelity. Some had suggested that the person sending this message couldn't have been watching since Elle was still in the belly, as their first video was the Q&A after Elle was born. However, as we know, looking at the social blade, it seemed there may have been videos before the first upload, so unfortunately that was a bit of a dead end. There were some additional conversations and possible proof, but honestly it was not concrete at all. It was pretty flimsy, and therefore the situation just tailed off. Don't get me wrong, there are a significant amount of people who believe they've seen Austin cheating. You can't ignore that. But this is the sort of thing that would undeniably put stress on individuals within families, and a lot of it comes from the simultaneous popularity and unpopularity of Austin. There are various videos out there that, quote, prove that he's cheating, and once again, it's really hard to ascertain what the truth is.
All right, so it's really hard to make out But this is Austin right here, so we'll just try to like slow it down somehow. So I think it's this girl right here. If you look really carefully.
Alrighty. Honestly, it's hard to ignore the general case of cheating given the amount of claims, but the number of people reaching to try and get a slice of the pie is just nauseating to follow. This eventually boiled over with probably the strongest allegations of them all, alluding to sexual assault. Published by a YouTuber by the name of Cole Carrigan, he uploaded a video called The Truth About the Ace Family, which is a 15-minute video detailing and promoting these allegations against him.
So I know a lot of you guys are probably thinking, what does Cole Carrigan have to do with the Ace family? Why is he inserting himself in something that has nothing to do with him? He should just become a drama channel at this point. Whenever it involves people that I love, I don't care who you are. I will speak what I want to speak, and if I have facts to speak, it will be said.
In the video, he states how he came to the conclusion that he needs to come forward regarding this. He states that people have been threatened with lawsuits and that he's not afraid to talk about it because he hasn't signed an NDA. He talked about how Keemstar had reached out to him and called him before subsequently turning down the story because he took a $500K bribe from the Ace family.
So we kind of just stayed low because we saw a bunch of tweets about people already knowing that he was uploading a video the next day about the situation. So we kind of were just like, not worried, and we were just gonna kind of let it unfold that way so we didn't have to insert ourselves where it wasn't needed. The next day came and he didn't tweet anything, he didn't upload anything, so I texted him saying, how much did they pay you to keep quiet? And he responded with this, and I was completely shocked. I immediately called my friend and told her that he was paid off $500,000 to keep quiet about the situation and that I needed to come forward.
He then spoke about the situation. He notes that there are NDAs involved, but that would be nullified in instances of rape, and that this situation is now more important than that.
So obviously my tweet got a lot of attention, and someone from Austin McBruden's team actually texted my friend that this happened to. I'll put the screenshot right here. Basically saying that we should be careful and shouldn't go any farther than what we're already doing to avoid legal action. And I proceeded to tell her, they're just trying to scare you. I just went through this exact same thing, so I'm not scared. I also didn't sign an NDA, and I also don't tolerate the shit that has happened to my friend. So with that being said, I told her to ignore that message because what needs to be said is going to be said regardless, and if I need to say it, I'll do it because I didn't sign an NDA, come arrest me.
So the story is that basically Austin approved a set of girls to come down and see him. They convened in Miami around the 21st of July for an event. Austin went with his dad. Cole then provides corroborating screenshots to show circumstantial evidence for the environment that preceded this event, and then he goes into the details of the sexual assault. Disclaimer, this following clip will not be pleasant.
After they all had been drinking, my two friends went back to their room to go change because the sun was setting. And that's when Austin, the security guard, the father, and two other guys came into their room. Obviously, I don't have recordings of went down in the room, but my friend told me that she repeatedly said no multiple times, over and over and over, to the point where she started crying, begging them to stop. That's when they forced themselves in her, and I will insert the photos of the blood all over the bed sheets in the hotel room right here on the exact same date, June 22nd.
There are many more details, but I'd recommend watching the video if you're interested. It's strong stuff for sure. He continues to show evidence of a conversation that followed that he felt provided more substantiation to the environment that played into this, before having this friend who is the victim come on the phone for an anonymous testimony. This testimony doesn't provide too much more bar the detail. If you want that, then I'd recommend you go listen. Ultimately, Cole concludes that this is enough evidence to prove beyond doubt that Austin McBroom is not just a cheat, but a rapist, and someone who does not deserve to be in such a position of power.
Okay, so now that you literally have the point of view from somebody who was actually there, that is enough proof, and I really don't need to provide anything else for you to see that Austin, his dad, his whole security team are pieces of shit. And these are not people that should be given all this crazy amount of success. I can't live with knowing that this type of person who's doing these things to people is just like winning at life, literally having everything just handed to them, money, fame, da-da-da-da.
This was a huge problem for the Ace family. With the public eye on them, it felt like everything was on the edge of imploding. But what was going on behind the scenes wasn't quite as cut and dry as it seemed.
I hate knowing that something this serious could put an end to the Ace family or such a loved group of people. Like, I don't want to be that person, and that's not what I'm here to do. I don't want to split up a family. I don't want to end relationships, because I've been getting a lot of messages like that. Oh, why don't you stay quiet? Why are you trying to ruin or end this family? It's not about that. Like, that's the last thing I want to do, is rip someone's family apart or anything. But whenever something this serious happens and it's to my friend and multiple other people are coming forward about other experiences, it's just not something that I as a person can stay quiet on. It's just against my morals, and it's something I absolutely won't do. So that's why I am here making this video for them.
Wow. How honorable, Cole. The video in question is hard-hitting and powerful, and for a while the momentum seemed solidly in Cole's favor. However, the tides began to turn when additional details came out, particularly regarding the claims he had made about Keemstar. Obviously, as we know in his video, Cole claimed Keemstar was paid $500,000 not to cover the drama. But this was refuted pretty quickly by Keemstar himself, as he posted screenshots which showed he'd followed up on his message by clarifying he was being sarcastic. On top of this, logically speaking, there was no way that Keemstar would have admitted something like that seriously and just casually in a DM like that, as it would threaten his brand. Given how much money it is likely Keemstar has already, I'm not sure $500K would make a huge difference, and therefore this alternative story about sarcasm makes much more sense.
Frankly, you've been very adamant on Twitter that you are going to ruin the Ace family, so if they did pay me off $500K, why would I tell you?
It doesn't reflect well on Cole, because it's a simple fact. If he's prepared to lie about this, then what else was he prepared to lie about? Immediately, the other girl who was referenced in the video comes forward with her own testimony. She doesn't say too much, but she says she felt the video was not released for the right reasons, and that Cole had approached her under the precipice that he thought they could make a lot of money off this. These DMs brought forward by this other victim showed Cole not actually being concerned for the justice of victims, but showing more concern in how much money it could make them.
So I'm sure they would want to pay me $100K or more, not to say shit. And then I could split that with you guys if you help me and send me all the receipts that I need.
With this additional information, McBroom jumped in, showing these DMs and also stating that he would be pursuing legal action. Although Cole has stated that he does not feel that they are following through on that threat, he has also admitted that his intentions were not pure at the start, but now he realizes that the fight for justice must persist and has found a new reason, and I just hate this all. There were some additional tweets and allegations that were just terrible. This set of screenshots were proven completely fake, really depressing. Catherine responded too, but it was with this weird DM which I wasn't even sure was in the video, and I'm not sure how it tied into the allegations, so I was confused about that. Oh, and one more thing, this garbage tweet which implied that because he had made multiple statements about involving his lawyers, it implied some kind of guilt. I don't think that's how it works. I think Austin has an ego. I think he wants to make people who he feels have accused him wrongly suffer, and I think that will follow through. I think if this does go to court, you'll understand why he acquired lawyers. As a quick side note, I thought it was really terrible also how people claimed that one of the girls was paid off because she said Austin McBroom was not at fault. You know, the sort of believe victims, parentheses when they agree with me narrative that I find absolutely vulgar. Most of the people involved in this situation are fundamentally unlikable, and I don't think many of the audiences are equipped to handle this either. Trial by tarot cards is a new one, I admit. I'd also like to add that the girl has since deleted these statements from her Instagram, but stands by them. Understandably, she didn't want it to be a persistent aspect of her life. It's hard to say exactly what happened, but I'm not going to dismiss experiences as people being paid off. It has become a bit of an obsessive narrative. Even on Keemstar's video where he shows the context to the DM, there are people claiming he was paid off too. One person even said, watch Cole Carrigan's video as proof despite that video. It's a mess, and people are projecting preconceived opinions to dictate their position on something much more complicated. It's not impossible that someone's been paid off somewhere, but on the other hand, being able to expose someone as paying you off could be just as profitable in the online age. So people would be very cautious in offering individuals payments themselves. In spite of all this, I just feel bad for the daughters involved. The what about the children cliche, I'm aware, but these are the controversies that are gonna make people's lives a misery because people are taking a family life and turning it into a game of clout, and those children didn't consent to that. This new drama is the point where it becomes destructive. I don't know fully whose fault that is, but the fact that Cole can sit there and say he doesn't want to tear a family apart but then make that video, extremely disingenuous. Austin has clearly been up to something too. The extent of it, I'm not sure, but he needs to be more cautious. He's a huge creator now. Congratulations, you live a lavish life, but you still have a family. This is the sort of stuff that will harm a relationship even if your partner believes you. And the worrying thought is that doubt that people are just staying together for the sake of the YouTube channel. That's not healthy either. Families are meant to be natural. They're meant to exist because you want them to exist. If you can film that family life and make a quick buck, then I'm not one to stand in your way. But the prime aim of a family is to surround yourself with people you love and provide a healthy environment to children who are going to be the next generation. And you want to provide them with the principles that they stand by. Austin and Catherine obviously didn't ask for these allegations, but people's negative judgment towards the Ace family has been a result of a consistent failure to empathize with other people, and so when the Ace family needed empathy of their own, they didn't get it. My empathy is free. I think it's shit that if false, these allegations have surfaced in such a way, pushed by an agenda-hungry, toxic individual who should be nowhere near dealing with cases as sensitive as this. But look at the controversies we've spoken about today and ask yourself, how can you make audiences see your perspective more clearly? The Ace family kind of suck. They seem fake. They often seem entitled to think they're above criticism because of the good deeds they've done, which trivializes those good deeds. They lack empathy for others and yet try to manipulate it out to their audiences through instance or truth-style documentaries. And generally they, mostly Austin, seem to be ill-equipped to be role models to viewers, both adults and children. This has built up a lot of contempt in critics because they've acquired this position of power while not being particularly responsible. And so when these more serious allegations surface, paired with the assumption that many people have that Austin is a cheat, people immediately wanted to see the back of them. People wanted to take them down. I personally treat these allegations with caution, given that it already seems muddy and the mix of vested interests really doesn't reassure me. If it's real, then once again, terribly handled, and it should have been kept out of someone like Cole's hands. I think most of the hatred towards them is an outcome of them just constantly pissing off people. And although it is people's responsibility to not be as presumptuous, it's incredible once again how quickly people have jumped to a conclusion. I feel like it's a risk when you constantly shun people who criticize you. You're going to create tension, which in this instance snapped. Let us move on to our conclusion from this lengthy saga. The Ace family seem to involve themselves in much more drama than a lot of YouTube families, and they go this midway between responding to criticism and just straight up deflecting it or victimizing themselves, and they never seem to work out the simplest way to respond, either because of ignorance or ego, probably both to a certain extent. Austin seems to be the worst offender. He seems rather juvenile and reckless. He's basically Roman Atwood trying to be Jake Paul, and Jake Paul shouldn't be a dad. He's already exploiting enough children as it is. Catherine, although being somewhat more reserved, seems to at least be complicit in a lot of these stunts and manipulative in many ways, often rationalizing the behavior and dodging the criticism equally. Some people have accused her of being a gold digger, but it's kind of sexist as it underplays her role in the actual channel. They're a couple. They are both beneficiaries of their own interaction with each other, which means that you can't tell if there's something really wrong because you really only see what they want you to see. It leads to fundamental doubts in the authenticity of the relationship. It doesn't mean that those doubts are correct, but you can see where they come from. They both kind of contribute to this mess that we've gone through today in their own unique way. And even though they have their supporters, they also have a lot of enemies and individuals who do not have the best experience with them. If the stupid subtweets, angry Instagram rants, and publicity stunts didn't rub someone the wrong way, they'll find something equally obnoxious that will. Do I think they're the worst? No. When you've had to experience individuals like Daddy05, it puts it in perspective. They make a lot of people happy, and I can't deny that. But they still still behave in a way where people are going to lose out. There are instances that have made me question their intent, which is important when you're dealing with a larger young audience who are prone to exploitation. And I haven't even spoken about every instance. They're promoting a message to millions of people, and some are going to take issue with that, especially when it's poorly delivered. It is an inevitability. They can't be upset at that principle. They can be upset when people falsely accuse stuff that might actually jeopardize the private life of individuals involved and cause trust rifts where they may not be warranted. As said, I can't tell you how much of what's been said is true, but I'd probably be pretty upset too. Equally, be aware that provided Cole's allegations are false, it is probably a cause of crying wolf. Their behavior building up a negative perception so that when something negative happened to them, people took the easiest explainable route. The point is though, sometimes the wolf is actually there. It's important to remember that people who've been wrong can be in the right, but it's also a case for why the Ace family should try and build a better rapport with their critics. Family channels are changing. Austin McBroom, the Ace family definitely seek to pursue a different relationship with their audience. And on principle, I can respect that. However, their conduct in other ways certainly hasn't been as high to a standard as many would hope. And the standard does have to be kind of higher for a family channel, not just for the sake of the audience, but for the children. I hope they really do feel involved with their channel because it's not something you should force. Right now, the kids are really young, so they're unlikely to specifically remember that much. But this sort of stuff can still really affect the development of a child. I hope they get out of this drama-embroiled side of YouTube and learn how to deal with the nature of controversy a bit better. At the end of the day, people are still going to look up to them as role models. They're still a monumentally sized channel, and they're still parents. I hope all innocence prevailing, they have the chance to have that family life they sometimes claim to desire.
I've never thought about stopping, but I feel like if we...
I've thought about it.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
I have.
That is, if they really want it. So yes, that's the video. What a fun time we had here. It has been banging. Go and check out Jay Aubrey. He is a darling. We love him so much on this channel. This is the first time he's actually been on, I think, and hopefully not the last. He's a great creator and I can't endorse him enough. Most people probably know him at this stage, but hey, no, go and check them out if you haven't. I also want to give a big shout out to the editors. Once again, a lot of editors on this one, and they all got to deliver. And hopefully, like the postman, they did. If they didn't, well, there'll be rations in the dungeon for a few days. I'd also like to give a big thank you to my Patreons. $10 Patreons are up on screen right now. And big thank you to Some Hullabaloo, Nico Deschamps, and Caroline. $50 Patreons. Thank you so much. You're fantastic. I really appreciate it. And a very special thanks to my $100 Patreon, Brandon. Fabulous. Brandon's been here for so long. You gotta love that. You love to see it. I love to see it. Thank you, Brandon. You're the mother G. You're the G. My Twitter, @TheRightOpinion. You can reach me on there. I do respond to DMs there. Facebook, I haven't responded to DMs for a while. I need to check that out. And Discord, links in the pinned comment. You can go and check it out. I'm going to try and be more active in all of it, but it's all over the place because I'm all over the place. That's how I roll. You probably know that by now. Other than that, I don't really have too much else to add. Take care of yourselves, guys. I hope you're having a good week. And I'm sending my love out to all of you.